The story begins 1 year after the brutal massacre at Fair Lake, when two adventurous college students named Rich Stoker and Hallie Smith decide to spend the day rock climbing in the dense and isolated forests of West Virginia. Rich manages to reach the top of a steep cliff, and as he turns to help Hallie make the final climb, a sudden and unseen attacker strikes, killing him instantly. Before Hallie can understand what happened, the same force begins to yank her upward with alarming strength, so she desperately cuts the rope and plummets to the rocky ground below. She quickly gets to her feet and runs through the undergrowth. Yet her escape is cut short when she becomes ensnared in a stretch of rusty barbed wire, and before she can break free, she is violently dragged back into the shadowy woods while screaming in terror. Meanwhile, many miles away, a medical student Chris Flynn drives through the winding mountain roads of West Virginia on his way to an important business meeting. Along the route, he pulls into a small weathered gas station to ask for directions, yet the elderly owner named Maynard offers no real help and speaks with an odd detached manner. Hoping to save time, Chris spots an old road map and decides to take a shortcut along the remote Bear Mountain Road. However, as he navigates the narrow and overgrown path, his car suddenly crashes into a vehicle stopped in the middle of the road. The stranded car belongs to a group of college friends named Jesse, Carly, Scott, Evan, and Francine, who are on a camping trip. While inspecting the damage, they discover that one of the tires has been shredded by a coil of barbed wire deliberately stretched across the road, a trap clearly placed there by someone with dangerous intentions. While Evan and Francine remain behind to watch over the vehicles, the rest of the group sets out along the rugged mountain path in search of help. After a short while, Evan hears an unsettling noise coming from deep within the woods, and he cautiously moves toward the sound. However, he suddenly vanishes without a trace. Moments later, Francine notices something unusual on the ground, and she is shocked to realize it is Evan's severed ear. Before she can react, a hidden figure lunges from the shadows and wraps a length of barbed wire around her neck and brutally garroting her. Meanwhile, the remaining group follows a dirt trail until they stumble upon an isolated, weather-worn cabin, surrounded by overgrown weeds. Hoping to find assistance, they step inside, yet they are instantly horrified to discover blood-stained walls and gruesome human body parts scattered throughout the room. Before they can flee, the sound of an approaching vehicle forces them to hide. Three cannibalistic, inbred mountain men, known as Three Finger, Sawtooth, and One Eye enter the cabin, dragging Francine's lifeless body with them. The group watches in silent terror as the killers carve up her remains and begin devouring the flesh. Meanwhile, after the cannibals eventually fall asleep, the group quietly tries to make their escape. However, their captors suddenly wake and immediately give chase, so the group is forced to flee into the dense forest. As they run, they stumble upon a clearing filled with abandoned and rusting vehicles, and they realize it is grim evidence of the killer's previous victims. Realizing they need a strategy, they quickly attempt to come up with an escape plan. Chris decides to create a distraction so the others can move ahead, yet he is shot in the leg by an arrow fired from the shadows. Jesse and Carly rush to his side and help him limp toward a nearby pickup truck, where they make a horrifying discovery of the mutilated corpse of Evan lying inside. Determined to buy them time, Scott bravely draws the cannibals' attention, but he is struck down when multiple arrows pierce his body. Jesse, Carly, and Chris push on until they come across an old watchtower that rises above the trees. Inside, they locate an aging two-way radio and manage to send out a desperate call for help. But the signal is answered, which alerts the cannibals to their exact location. Since they cannot force their way inside, the three killers set the wooden structure ablaze, and the group is left with no choice but to leap out into the surrounding trees. In the chaos that follows, Three Finger swings his weapon and delivers a brutal blow that nearly decapitates Carly, which kills her instantly. Jesse and Chris, now the only survivors, scramble through the forest until they find temporary refuge in the darkness of a hidden cave. The next morning, the cannibals track down Jesse and Chris, and they push Chris down a steep hill before dragging Jesse back to their cabin. Chris survives the fall, and as he struggles to his feet, he encounters a lone police officer who has arrived in the area. Before the officer can offer any help, Sawtooth suddenly appears and shoots him dead. Thinking quickly, Chris slips onto Sawtooth's truck and clings to the undercarriage while the killer drives back toward the cabin. Inside, Jessie is bound firmly to a bed, and she can only watch in silent horror as the cannibals haul in the dead police officer and proceed to chop off his head as part of their gruesome ritual. With no time to waste, Chris sets the cannibals' cabin ablaze and then rams their truck straight into the building to create chaos. He rushes inside and frees Jesse, and together they flee into the surrounding woods while the structure begins to burn. As they reach a safe distance, Chris spots a fuel tank beside the cabin, so he fires at it, triggering a powerful explosion that completely destroys the hideout. With the cannibals seemingly dead, the pair climb into the killer's truck and drive away from the nightmare. Later, they stop briefly at Maynard's gas station, where Chris tears the road map off the wall as a final act of defiance before getting back into the truck and leaving the mountains behind. Yet the horror is not truly over, because while a police officer inspects the charred remains of the cabin, Three Finger suddenly bursts from the rubble and kills the police officer instantly while laughing menacingly.